Alrighty, we're back. So, for the purpose of the second video, we're going to be working with, again, comparing fractions by creating common denominators, okay? Now, essentially though, if you're having a hard time seeing this, we kind of want to offer, it's not another strategy, but also drawing it out might be a little helpful. And so that's the first thing I'm going to do. Now, if you noticed before I said, well, when we have two fractions that are greater than 1, however, their wholes are the same, we don't really need to work with that. So instead, we're going to just work with the fractional parts. But notice there's a difference. We have 3/5 and 2/3. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a tape diagram, a visual representation of each fraction. Okay? Now, if I want to draw out 3/5, how many units should I have? You said 5, that is correct. My denominator tells me how many units and how many parts are shaded. You said 3, that is correct. Your numerator tells you how many parts should be shaded. Now, if you notice here, we have 2/3, right? And so for 2/3, this time we're going to partition our fraction or our tape diagram into thirds. How many parts are we shading? You said 2. Yeah? All right, so let's stop here. Now notice that visually drawing them, it's a little tricky to tell, right? And so we cannot compare fractions just relying on this visual model. So we're going to move on to finding the common denominator. I'm going to start with 3/5 on this side and 2/3 on this side. Okay? Now notice that we said, well, we first want to list our multiples. And we're going to do so by thinking of what this looks like using the denominator and skip counting, right? So we have 5, we have 3. Let's start with 5. Let's skip count. And I have 5, 10, 15. Okay, you're going to do the same thing for 3. Go ahead, say it with me. 3, 6, 9. All right, let's stop right here. What do you notice about both sets of multiples? Well, so far I'm noticing that, wait a minute, I'm going to skip count further because I don't have any common denominators. So let's keep going. Or I don't have any common multiples, we should say, right? So let's keep going. We're going to go to 20 and 25. Let's do the same thing. 9, 12, and 15. Now, from the list of multiples, are you able to identify a common multiple? Take a closer look, okay? If you said 15, ding, 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 you got it, yep. So 15 is going to be our least common denominator. And so what this means, though, is we're going to have to convert, or we're going to have to rename both fractions in order to have an accurate comparison. So let's do this by setting up each equation, okay? So if I have 3/5, and we want to rename it to an equivalent fraction, we need to remember that our equivalent fraction is going to have a denominator of 15. And same thing for 2/3. If we're renaming 2/3 and we're rewriting it, it needs to have a denominator of 15, okay? Now remember, friends, when we're finding equivalent fractions, whatever we multiply the denominator by, we need to multiply the numerator by. So let's do the work. We're going to multiply 5 times, think to yourself, well, 5 times what will give me a product of 15? Okay, and if you said 5 times 3, that is correct. 5 times 3 will give me a product of 15. I said it already, but now you think, what's my next step? What do I have to do next? Yeah, we're going to multiply the numerator by the same factor. So numerator is 3 in this case. We're going to multiply it by 3, and we get a product, friends, of, on my snap, 9. Okay? So now we have 9/15. So 3/5 is the same thing as 9/15. Let's move on. Let's do the same work. Think to yourself, what is the numerator what must I multiply the numerator by? In this case, I got 15, right? And so it should be 5. Now notice that these two numbers don't have to be the same. My objective is to get a common denominator. So it doesn't matter what I multiply the first fraction by, I can use a different factor. However, the same thing applies. Whatever I multiply the denominator by, I need to multiply the numerator by. So if I'm multiplying 3 times 5 here, I'm going to multiply numerator by 5. Okay? And last but not least, I get a product, friends, of 2 times 5 is 10. Alrighty. Now, notice that these fractions are so close that visually they would have been so tricky to compare. And so I can offer now an accurate comparison. Is 9/5 greater than 10/5? Or is 10/5 greater, is 9/15 greater than 10/5 or less than 10/5? Okay? Now, in order to show that 9/15 is less than 10/15, we need to use that symbol that shows me that the point, right, that has one point I should say, is pointing towards the lesser number. Okay? And this is where I want to say, if we need a little more help, we have our hangout this afternoon, or you can reach out directly to me. Alrighty? Enjoy the rest of your day, friends. See you later.